What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Coach's Corner. I'm Coach Lyndon.
I'm Em.
I'm Amy.
Coach Debbie.
And this is where we help people change their relationship with food and fitness, sharing our thoughts and everything that we experience on a regular basis. Hopefully some of the lessons serve some of you guys. If you like this video, share this video with friends. Also, make sure you hit the notification button and subscribe. That way you get it whenever we put new things out. All right. I wanted to cover, so I had a couple different topics in my phone. Ooh. Because I want to use topics to kind of drive our conversations, make things a little more organized, right? So we know that this month is November is which? Do you know? 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 Do you guys know? It's not really a quiz, but at the same time.
You haven't let us know.
I don't know.
November is a month of static balance. Okay, so we always theme our months around training because it allows us to have different conversations with people using themes, right? So static balance is everything about creating balance and being able to stay in the position you create balance from, right? Super important thing that we can use in our lives. So let's go over it as a overall topic and then we'll expand on it as the month goes, all right? Static balance, how do you create static balance in your life? Mentally, physically, and spiritually.
Ooh.
Ew. Oh. That's the Amy. Oh. All right. You want to start? Start with
Mental?
Yeah, start mental.
All right.
Physical's easy.
Yeah, it is. I think mental's kind of akin to physical in the fact that, like, consistency looks like, to me, like static mental stability.
Okay.
And mental balance.
Expand on it?
Yeah. I'd say I see a lot of people who come in here, a lot of the problem across the board, not just with their physical journey or their fitness journey, sure, but across the board is consistency, and that your brain likes the repetition of things. So if you give it what it likes, which is like getting up the same time every day. If you get up at 6 one day, and then you get up at 7 the next day, then you get up at 10 the next day, and then 6 the next day, your brain doesn't like it. Mentally, you're all over the place, and you'll see that show up in different parts of your life just from not having that consistent thing that your brain can attach to. To me, that's how you keep your brain balanced, your hormones balanced. I'd say it goes as far as sleep, like your circadian rhythms. If your sleep pattern's all over the place, that throws off how your body feels, how your body functions, what type of hormones are released at what point in the day. And yeah, it can really mess you up and make you feel off balance, make you feel like your life is all over the place and you can't find any type of good feeling. I don't know. It just feels bad. It feels bad to the brain, I think, across the board.
Sure.
I agree with that. I think to expand on that, giving your brain quiet time, right? Giving your brain time to self-reflect. I think those are other ways to maintain balance there. I'm somebody who can like go, and that will definitely put me off balance mentally. If I don't take the appropriate amount of time to reset or the appropriate amount of time to tune in to myself, hell yeah, that seesaw will throw me for sure. The consistency, I think the consistency really is key in that mental balance. And I think it's harder to maintain that as it gets darker. You know, this 100%. Time of year, as maybe you have more social obligation around holiday time, right? You're giving your time away to more people. Sure. So I think it can be hard to maintain your boundaries because you feel like doing things out of obligation or, you know, whatever your reason might be. I know this time of year is harder for me because I'm like, I should do this thing. I should see these people. I should make that event. And I'll definitely throw myself off balance doing that stuff. Not making enough time to rest, not making enough time to eat, not making enough time to be consistent. If I don't hold that boundary firm, then Scale's gonna tip.
Solid.
Solid.
I think I'm thinking of it wrong. Mental static balance. That just makes me feel like stagnation. Like,
No one can tell you how to feel
Say
about
what
it.
you
Just sharing what you
feel.
do.
tell me how to feel. I guess like the ways that you two are describing it
What about your way?
helps. It's like the consistency method. I think maybe just in my current season, static balance. I don't know. Like, I definitely appreciate the idea of slowing down and taking time to take inventory and to breathe. And I guess when I think of that slowing down, I still think of it as being dynamic, because I think of like breath work or movement with breath work, something like that. When I slow down to help my mind find that kind of peaceful resting place.
Okay.
So-
Okay.
Yeah, I guess for me it's a little hard to think of it as being static. And I think of stagnation, and I don't want that. So, yeah, I guess that's what it's making me feel.
We gotta grab that dictionary.
I know, I need the...
Static and stagnation.
I actually thought that when we started,
Oh.
I was like, well, I'm not going first.
A lot of, I probably should have went first, just because it is static balance in and of itself is one of those terms that is harder to define. Like, it's funny, right? I get a lot of images because I think I have a pretty vivid imagination. So like when Devin heard static balance, it was like there was all these floating terms. He was just grabbing the ones he liked, but they did make sense if you pay attention to what was being said. So I would say that static balance is grounding. Just plain simple and there is strength in stillness. So if you're able to balance in stillness, like for instance, I was showing both Em and Sarah the same thing because they have issues getting into their hips and ways that keep their body safe. So I was showing them, like giving them small jolts so they could learn how to keep themselves tight and engage themselves, right? So that allowed them to be harder to push over.
Right.
Not harder to move, but harder to push over, right? Because a lot of people, when they think static balance, I do think they think of it as like, well, akin to death, right? If you stop moving, you die.
But you're not moving. There's
no.
micro adjustments happening all the time to
Correct.
maintain. I mean,
Correct.
if you're thinking physically, right?
Correct.
Yeah, that one feels easier.
Well, it's even
But I think mentally that
let's
is-
say if you don't move, that doesn't mean that your mind stops working. That doesn't mean you stop breathing. That's
Right.
those different balances apply, just now have to be done somewhere else. Honestly, I think too many people move way too much and they need to sit down with themselves, right? Because when you get a chance to sit down with yourself, you have to face who you are, right? And when you face who you are, you get a chance to look at yourself truthfully and then look at where you want to be. And I used to look at it all the time as, if my son's 10 and he talks about his father, then how does his father do things, right? Does he see his dad and go, yeah, he's kind of a terrible parent? Or does he see his dad and say, you know what, I know my dad is literally doing everything he can to give us the best life possible. Like, how does my son talk about me is something I use as a mirror to reflect on who I am. You can only do that by yourself and in stillness. I cannot do that well with other people. I know people think they can, but you are full of shit. It's not possible, right? Because your voice being the loudest when you sit with yourself, because it's the only voice, is absolutely what happens. Other people may big you up and they might tell you things that make you feel better, but ironically, being better isn't always feeling better, right? Sometimes being better is consistency, and the consistency of looking at your stuff and saying, you know what, I'm not very good at that, but I'd like to be. And then working on what makes you better at the thing. Fair? So I can tie it to physical because as we're holding a lunge position and you have your knees off the ground, again, I'm giving you a slight tap where I'm asking you to go deeper into your hips, right? If I ask you to go deep into your hips to create stability and you can't, that's where you fall over, right? So now, trying to balance, you realize your hips are out of alignment. and you have to do something to change how your hips are sitting, which is creating a movable balance, right? That's the goal. Most people can't hold a movable balance, right? Life ebbs and flows, so do we. But it's the idea of doing so, keeping oneself safe and being able to move safely through space. That's why it's good. That's why, like, when it comes to even feeling good about yourself, like, a lot of people will take self-defense classes and other things because they're trying to bring themselves into a place where they feel good about who they are, right? But my opinion, external and internal have to balance one another in order for you to feel good about who you are. If everyone's saying you're a great person, but you don't do the things to internally feel that way, it'll never land for you. Never, right? You can also feel really good about who you are being by yourself all the time and be a whole piece of shit to everyone else. Again, you need both, right? I can think I'm the greatest person in the world, then I go out in the world and I'm hurting people left and right, right? It's not balanced. So being immovable isn't about not being willing to move. It's about being able to stay still. That's my opinion. I covered both. We're on physical.
You really did.
Yeah, I haven't gone spiritual yet. Wait till hold on to your hat for that motherfucker. I got all types of opinions about these things. Why do you think they're like our principles here? They're like tenets here, almost, if you really pay attention.
I mean, I like that. It's just, I found it difficult to apply to static balance personally.
Well, what do you feel now?
Wow. Well, I think connecting the mental and physical in that space makes a lot of sense to me. And the idea of being grounded absolutely makes sense.
Hey, Kismet, look at me. Don't do it.
Listen, okay?
She like,
Screw you. Just keeping you safe.
I appreciate it.
But yeah, the idea of grounding, I think that in the less literal, like, yeah, you're still breathing. Still, some part of you is dynamic.
Yeah, why can't you be still and stay alive?
It's a great question.
I'm in. That it? Is that? I think you have more to. Do you have more to say?
No.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Ooh.
Amy.
Are we going?
Yeah,
We're hitting it back. We're slinging shot back.
We might as well just go back.
All
We'll
right.
never get to the last word.
Static balance physically. I think for me right now, where I'm looking for balance physically is between the time I spend training and the time I spend maybe doing yoga and balancing my flexibility with my strength.
How did this morning feel?
It felt great. It felt great for me. Heck yeah.
I should have asked everyone. I didn't ask anyone.
Yeah.
I was like, you're fine.
I was like, yeah, I was asking for it. So like, woo, it's happy. Thumbs up from me. You know, I realized that I think people can have very polarizing feels on yoga, you know, like what they've seen and what they've experienced versus maybe what you're offering and what it could look like in here, you know, because
100%.
Doesn't always match up maybe or align with something that can be inclusive in all the spaces where it's happening. So, and I do think, you know, a lot of men do feel less comfortable moving their body like that.
Yeah.
Stopping and like not working with their power, but working on their flexibility. And I think that is where I've been trying to move, is like being able to have both, being able to work through my range of motion and flexibility, but also still, you know, working towards goals that I have. So
Fair.
And the balance of being able to do that with the mental, I think, is super important, because in order for me to train, I gotta make sure that I'm eating, and in order for me to do that, I have to make sure that I'm, you know, organizing my day in a way. I'm reflecting with myself enough to be like, yo, I need this and I don't need that, and maybe I should expand time here, and maybe I should just cut that out.
Fair.
Totally.
Fair.
Tag.
Physical static balance. To me, that just it's just about body awareness. We talk about triple extension all the time. We talk about stacking the body, how the body works, how the body likes to sit or have load on it. And it has a lot to do with static balance, I think. Just sitting there or standing there on 2 feet, you don't realize that your feet are constantly making these micro adjustments to like keep you upright. If you try to do a handstand and you're not used to doing it, you'll know immediately because it's hard to hold. But really, handstand has less to do with strength and more to do with stacking your body and being able to hold those static balance positions. So I think a lot of the training we do here emphasizes that, especially on a single leg. Just getting those muscles used to stacking and being aligned, because a lot of us have I can't even talk. A lot of us have unaligned parts of the body, and it really doesn't show up that you're in unalignment until you put pressure on the body. Until you actually put some load on the body, you don't really understand that you're not lined up.
Misaligned.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, which leads us into spirituality. Do you want to cover that?
Yeah, I'll go straight into it and then slingshot it back. All right.
Good.
Speaking of misalignment, I think spiritual-wise, what comes to mind is like, I'm gonna talk about it, the duality of light and dark. I think we talk about shadow work and light work around here a lot, and every time I look at someone, it's like one or the other. That unless you're very intentional on balancing those two things out, you probably have a proclivity or you're leaning towards one side. When I came in here, it was shadow work, so I spent a lot of time at home, talking to myself, talking in the mirror, having this internal monologue or dialogue, really, 'cause I'm talking to myself. And not really sharing with people. And I didn't really see how that was misaligned until I was called to share with people. And then I realized you're bouncing those ideas or those conclusions, whatever you come up with in your head, off of trusted sources. And they're like a mirror reflecting back to you as to affirmation or whether something needs to change. And I say that's why it's important when you are trying to align, to be cognizant of the people that are mirroring back to you. And if you're doing shadow work, cognizant of the self-talk, of the words that you have going through your head just throughout the day. Shadow work is everything that you do that other people can't see or can't perceive. And light work is everything that they can. So I think balancing those both, like you were saying, you do need both. If you're not bouncing your ideas off of your community, off of trusted people, then how do you really know if you're right? You might be totally wrong. And most times you are if you're not bouncing off anyone.
Yeah, your own thoughts can betray you for sure.
Yeah.
And then I see a lot of people doing a lot of spinning of the wheels, doing light work, or talking too much. If you talk way too much, you're probably not listening, which means you're missing a lot of messages that could help you align your message to be more truthful.
Very true.
That's it. Back to you.
That's it.
All right.
You got to do both separate.
That's
Pass it.
We'll just go off what you were saying. I think for me, spiritual balance, static balance, being in space. I did, before I came here to this space, I was doing a lot of healing work, a lot of shadow work, but I was doing it alone. And at that point, I really did need to do a lot alone, just based on where I was. So joining this community and spending more time in community, I kind of like slowly worked towards what that healing looks like in community.
Fair.
Because it's different. I mean, I can heal my relationship with myself, or I'm still working on that. I don't think that'll ever be done. That's not work that is finished. There's no finish line on that. Sorry, not sorry. I think it can feel daunting to hear that maybe when you're starting. but it doesn't feel as shitty as it does once you get into it. I think it can actually feel kind of great that it is an ongoing process, right? It doesn't feel as heavy. But when I started expanding my relationships here, that was like, whoa, like the imbalance of that, where I was like, yo, I'm good, I'm solid when I'm doing me and going home and it's just me. But, you know, once I start to connect with people, that like, whoo, that takes a lot more work for me to maintain balance, honestly, because it's just harder when you're forming deep connection with people, when you're working in space, when you're being vulnerable, when you're trying to build, when like there's a bunch of stuff that comes into play that's gonna rock your ability to be like, nah, I'm good. And then you're like, fuck, I am not good right
Fucking
now
hate people
at
for
all. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, because I think for me, what it did was shine lights on, you know, what my habits are. When I feel a certain way, it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go hide in the fucking corner. I'll come back when I'm ready, you know, like that kind of idea where spiritually being, I think, connecting with self and being able to maintain and hold myself while I connect with others it's fucking hard.
Facts.
It's really hard.
Full spirit body tension.
Yeah, and but you know, I think working on flexing that and seeing where I can find balance, having consistent spiritual practice is also something that I think plays into that, right? If I have like a gratitude practice,
Facts.
something that helps me connect to myself, connect to source, and then I have the better ability to come out here and connect with others.
Fair.
I'm just gonna leave it there.
Damn. Damn.
Next.
All right. I didn't realize I was supposed to talk about physical also, so I just, mix them up in the cauldron. Okay, so I think static balance is throwing me off because I associate like static with frozen, which is like my trauma response as I freeze. So like that staticness, I think, is off-putting to me. Though when you all are talking about it, like the little muscle movements and you're still breathing.
Yeah.
Because
Still alive.
static
Still
to me, like,
alive.
I literally do stop breathing when I'm in that state. So I think, my initial response was like, I don't want to be static. That feels terrible.
That's probably why you need to be right now.
Let me get that cauldron.
Double, boy.
Smells like truth. She just threw a dash of truth in there.
Yeah.
It's a nice recipe.
So that and then the balance piece, those two things put together feels crazy to me. Even though it's very important. I also have a hard time slowing down, like, especially physically, like even the kind of yoga that I enjoy, that does balance me spiritually, physically, mentally. I like a moving practice. I like a vinyasa practice. I don't want to sit there and hold it. And the hip movements this morning, like sitting in my hips made me want to cry. Like, and I can move through my hips.
Yeah.
But when I move, like trying to sit there, like I dump out. I can't sit with it, and that's something I'll think about all month long.
Oh, snap.
But
Yo, before you go, though,
I can't.
I just want to say I can relate to the perspective of what you're talking about, because that was one of the first, like, verbal things in my mind I had to switch. Was I always felt like, oh, I'm good, you know, I'm just doing my thing. And then Lynn was like, yo, but you're running away. And I was like, I ain't running away. And then I was like, but am I standing still, you know? Like, am I okay with like sitting in it?
Yeah.
You know, and like that was one of the things I had to change for myself, is like I didn't like to sit in it either. I still don't, to be real. Yeah. But I do realize that's like where the most transformative work is. I could keep running and I could keep doing that and I'll see results, but for the results I want, sitting in it.
Results.
Yeah. And he asked me, he said, if you are standing still or if you are sitting still, what are you standing for? You know, and that was like transformative for me being able to stay in it. It's like, yeah, I didn't have anything to stand for. So that's why it was hard for me to like sit there statically.
Yeah. I think I've placed a lot of value on my, like, what I do, which involves movement. And I think there have been some times where I have had more time to sit with myself, and what you're saying about, like, man, I really had it by myself, and then I started to care about people and get, like, you know, in that social, which is so good, and it has so many more complications of, you know, interaction, what you absorb, what you
Shit comes
take
up.
time for, what you agree to, don't agree to, feel obligated. Yeah, and I think I haven't, like, yoga's been calling my name for probably years at this point. I haven't really sunk back into my practice, and, like, that is the thing that brings me to that solid self state that allows me to function better in a communal space, and I just am avoiding it. So now I'm saying it on camera.
Oh.
I need to stop that shit.
Uh-oh.
I need it so bad.
You heard it here first,
I
folks.
need it so bad.
These are my confessions.
I really do.
Just when I thought I said all I could
guess
say.
the Static Balance month is gonna be my favorite, not favorite month.
Oh,
I'm just gonna,
okay.
yeah.
You don't want the static? Good.
Are y'all ready?
All right, let's see what you got.
Can you take a deep breath?
Yeah, kind of. Okay, so I said that the components, the 12 components of fitness are kind of like they're the tenets of space. And a lot of people don't realize that they're the tenets of like how we run because they don't understand how necessary they are. But I realized a long time ago for myself that strength in one arena does not make you strong. Strength in multiple arenas makes you perceived as strong, right? So static balance and what we will have eventually, which is dynamic balance, are actually predestined, preordained things. Static balance is more like shadow work. It's part of the reason that people suffer from seasonal depression, right? Dynamic balance is more like light work, right? And it's funny, if you are a person who thrives in by yourself, when the light work comes along, you start to feel real cagey, right? And it's weird because you're actually being with people, but ironically, you're like, I don't really know if I want to hear what they have to say, right? I don't know if I really want to know, but I gotta know. Like, it's like that feel, right? And yeah, I don't think that. But here's what's interesting. I don't know if we said this on camera or off camera. I'm trying to remember. But it was like you said it. The way I teach yoga is different from the average person. So a lot of people's stigmas about yoga have to do with an arching of love and light, right? And there's no love without shadow. You cannot show love in just the light arena. It doesn't work. So when people say love and light, I think they miss the point of what's necessary for a light to shine. You need both, right? So I was thinking about what you were talking about when saying something like that. There was two phases. Most people are running, and if you're running, are you running to something or from something, right? Then if you stand still, are you standing for something or are you sitting down, right? Like there's two different phases in both spaces, right? To get where you need to run to get there, right? But also you need to learn to sit still in the thing that you want so it has a chance to mature, right? So if it's a twofold thing, then what are you doing to cultivate that for yourself? So what I'm seeing, using seasonal depression as a caveat, is a lot of people are being forced to sit with their stuff, right? You can't go outside and just get your quick fix every 2 seconds now. It's actually harder to do. Waking up is harder. Your body's talking to you and telling you things it's been telling you the entire year that you're not listening to, which is why some people are having a hell of a time getting out of bed, right? It's not that your body hasn't been talking, it's that you're a terrible listener, right? To be completely honest. And I believe that the year literally reflects how humans are supposed to exist, right? So the seasons changing is let's say congruent with how we're supposed to grow, right? During the sunshine time is the most beautiful time to connect with everybody and go outside and put your feet into the ground, right? You got the fall. Too many people don't embrace fall, right? They want to keep everything the same. But ironically, fall is a time to make space for the new, right? You can't be running towards something if there's no falling off of the things. You don't have enough capacity for anything new.
Yeah.
Then, when it's cold outside, is the time where you have to learn to create your own warmth. All right? This is a shadow work time, right? This is a time where you are forced to sit with yourself, and whoever's helping you to maintain heat, probably your real tribe, right? Then we got spring. Spring is when you get to see all the results of the things that you allowed to fall off and die and make room for the new, because that's where you plant seeds, that's where things grow, right? Now I get to create new friendships instead of relying on the old ones, or new relationships in that space when I allow myself to actually sit in season, right? So again, if you're a functioning human being, then allowing the seasons to actually help you do what you want to do actually allows for you to grow the way you want to grow. So I'm going to call bullshit on what you said. And the reason I'm going to call bullshit is because I've seen you in class with me in a yin class and you were fine, right? A lot of what I see happen for people is there's like this one way you've done it or this way you've done it previously and it felt like shit. But a lot of that has to do with the imbalance of the thing that I brought up in the beginning. If someone's telling you love and light and they're talking love and light, then that's not really sitting in with things you need to sit in, is it? They're encouraging you to take travels and go to all these places and all this bullshit, but the place you need to spend the most time is with self, right? If in my mind, my garden is terrible, then I have to really sit with the fact that my garden has dead leaves, the ground is rocky and terrible, I don't have anything growing. Like, that is a hard thing to do, right? Even more important than that is then realizing in season that you're gonna have to dig up those rocks. You're gonna have to till that soil. You're gonna have to get some seeds. You're gonna have to actually wait for the season of warmth and prepare for it, right? Like, this is a thing, if you really pay attention, you can help grow from, right? But again, most people just want the good feels. They don't want the real living experience, right? So I am big on personally doing all of that, which is why sometimes it'll be like, Leonard, what you doing? I'm like, I'm just doing this thing I got to do. Like, I'm not excited about it, right? It's like last year we talked about the lunch challenge so much, right? I wasn't excited about the lunch challenge. I wasn't like, everybody, let's do a lunch challenge. I was like, I'm doing this thing because my son needs me. And I can go back and I could look at video and you could hear me talking to LJ. Right? We're lunging for 15 minutes. I got him strapped to my chest. I've cried doing it. I've been in rage doing it. I'm just going through the thing, but I'm realizing that this is keeping me grounded, right? My son, having my son to me, he's grounding me. So I'm like, okay, this is very hard and I want to give up, but I can't quit because I know you wouldn't want me to quit. I know you're going to see me quit. I can't do that. So that helped me to move to the next phase, right? So I'm saying if you embrace the season, and this one being the static balance season, you will get a chance to see who you really are so you can be who you want to be.
Yeah.
Fair? I knew I was going to say a lot for that one.
Leaves are falling, let that shit go, you know?
Facts. Make room for the new.
Yeah.
Because that's really the point, right? The point of being still is to reflect and make space. Fair? So if you're out here like, what can I do next? Probably nothing. Not if you really want to grow, right? And some of us are in like, we've already created that space for ourselves, so it's okay that you have your tribe. But you notice you're not really looking for new friends in the season either. You're kind of leaning on those people who you're close to, right? Again, things that fall off need to fall off. There's probably a bunch of people you've talked to you don't need to talk to anymore. You got associates in your life. They ain't friends. It's okay. They might come back in another season. And they might be friends in that season, but they're associates, right? No need to focus there. All right. Well, before we I don't want to get too deep into it. I can really sit here and talk about the ride. There we go.
Hey!